So my second team that I believe is a winner of the 2020 NBA offseason is the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they made some just absolutely incredible signings in my opinion. I mean, incredible. Getting Bogdanovich, I think they overpaid slightly for him, but I'm okay with that. He's a great player. Getting Danilo Gallinari on that contract, amazing. And then the biggest signings, in my opinion, that I think is going to really help them, because I mean we've talked time and time again about how just horrific Trae Young is on defense. I mean, going out and getting Chris Dunn, one of the best defensive point guards in the NBA, and Rondo. I mean, I think that is going to help Trae Young so much. Not only like bringing defensive guard presence to help him, but I think those players are really going to help him develop his game on that defensive end. I think Rondo's really going to help Trae Young elevate his game. Like, again, I think Trae Young, depending on how the Hawks finish this year, I mean, if Trae Young continues to elevate his numbers, I mean, that man could quite possibly be in the MVP conversation if that team's finishing upper in the East. And I think Rondo and Chris Dunn are really going to help elevate his game and really help to cover a lot of his mistakes. I also think picking Onyeka Okongwu, a little odd. We kind of had that conversation just because they already have their center. But again, he is another defensive guy, defensive presence for them. And that's something they desperately need because they were 28th in defense last year. I mean, horrific. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching them next year. I do think they're a team that could make the playoffs in the East, and so yeah, that's why the Hawks are one of my winners of the offseason.
Yeah, so they were one of my honorable mentions, and there's a few reasons why I didn't have them as one of my clear winners of this offseason. The first being, yes, they are going to be better than last season, unequivocally. They're deeper. They acquired more talent. They, paid out 85 or $158 million to some big names. Um, but my biggest concern is that they're not going to be able to continue developing their young talent enough now that they've kind of, acquired more talent. And, that's something that we've kind of talked about with the Hawks in the past is that, like they have some wings and Cam Reddish, Kevin Hoyter, and the list goes on from some young guys that they want to try to get playing time as much as possible. And I think it's great. I think the Kendrick Nunn signing is good because we were
Chris
hoping that
Dunn,
they or yeah, sorry, what did I say?
you said Kendrick Nunn.
Oh, sorry. But you know, because he's so elite on the defensive end, um, however, I'm also worried that he's not going to be able to offer any spacing for Trae Young at all. I know that obviously Trae Young can accomplish most of that spacing himself, but it's still good for guards to be able to space the court a little bit more. And then the other question mark is Danilo Gallinari. He's like the last season he ran 98% of his minutes from the power forward position. And, yes, they have John Collins. Yes, they have Clay Capella and now Onyeka Okongwu. So there's just going to be a logjam there. So are they going to be asking Danilo Gallinari to be, taking a role that he's not as accustomed to in the small forward, which isn't, a ginormous switch, but, it's still not what he's most comfortable playing in terms of kind of how we've seen him succeed in the past as well. And Rondo, he's a good player. He brings a lot of leadership to that locker room that they desperately need. Um, but we haven't seen Rondo play very elite minutes in the regular season in a pretty long time, and we know that he can make some. So he can kind of come up when it's needed in the playoffs, and he'll show out. But I'm just worried that this Hawks team is getting better, yes, but they're not making steps enough that are going to be able to put them in title contention 4 or 5 years from now because they're not going to be allowing their younger talent to develop alongside Trae Young. And so that's kind of why I didn't have them as my clear outright one of the winners of this offseason.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. My I'm not as high on their younger talent as you might be. I think the only person on their roster that I think could actually be like a solid starter a few years down the line is DeAndre Hunter. I'm not high on Kevin Herter. I'm not high on Cam Reddish. There's so many other players in the league that can do what they do and so much more. And so I'm not, the reason why I'm not as concerned about that is just because I think the 3-4 years down the line when they're actually competing for titles, I don't think those guys are going to be a focal point on that team. I think they're going to be bringing in people through trades, through signings and free agency. And so I actually think these signings are going to be really helpful for them because they're going to start developing that winning culture down in Atlanta. They're going to start winning games, start getting that playoff experience for Trae Young. And I think going forward, that's going to allow them to become a more desirable destination for free agents. I think a big deal for them this year is definitely going to be being in the Eastern Conference playoffs and becoming that place that free agents are going to go to next year with that free agency class being just so stocked full of talent. I really expect them to make a lot of moves next year. I know they did spend a lot of money this year as well on a bunch of players, but that's kind of what I think is going to happen with them is they're going to be a team that they're not going to really sort of draft some good young talent, wait 5 years, and then they're going to be amazing. I think they're going to be a team that they have to go sign guys, they have to trade for guys. That's going to be the way they get talent around Trae Young because it's something they need to focus on right now. Because I mean, Trae Young's going to leave if they don't start making some moves, and I think this year was just that first step into getting there for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's too early to be hitting the like panic button on DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. You know, they're both guys over the last 2-3 years that were lottery picks, like early top five picks even. And I mean, even look at a guy like Brandon Ingram, his first season or two. You know, he wasn't exceptional. A lot of people were, telling the Lakers to, try to get rid of him. He was getting too many minutes and some of that type of talk. And then look at where he is now. Like some guys just need a little bit, more time to develop. At the end of the day, they're like what 20, 21 years old still. So I mean, it's for me, I'm just not, in the mindset that they should be hitting the panic button on those two. I still think more meaningful minutes might allow them to both blossom down the line. And I mean, Cam Reddish was a guy coming into Duke that everyone thought could be a number like 1 through 3 pick, Kevin Durant comps. And, just because he was the third man in a fantastic Duke team, people kind of, he didn't really get all the limelight, but I mean, he's still been a great player anytime that he's been on the court. Um, I don't know. I just think it's way too early to be hitting the panic button on those two. And I think that's kind of what Atlanta has shown that they've done by, acquiring some of this talent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're gonna just have to see. I think it's gonna be past this season, kind of see how they continue to make moves and push things around Trae Young. 'Cause I think right now, I think their top priority needs to be making the playoffs because I think Trae Young needs that playoff experience. He's their franchise player, and I think you need to start winning games down there because otherwise, your best player is going to leave. But with that, let's go ahead and take our first break.